Hello and welcome. I'm Ankit and you are watching today's Daily News Simplified, today being 26th of September. Now, as you can see from this slide, we'll be discussing five important articles which we have taken up from today's newspaper. Also, before moving forward, please make sure to hit the like button and also subscribe to our YouTube channel for all current affairs related content. Now, quickly starting off with the first article of the day, you can see this one appeared in the Indian Express newspaper. Now, the news article it highlights that the NGT, which is the National Green Tribunal, it has asked the government of implementing star rating for passenger vehicles. Now, National Green Tribunal, it is a statutory body and also a quasi-judicial body specifically formed to deal with environmental related matters because these matters relates and can be discussed only from an expert point of view and not only from a legal standpoint. Further, as you can see, questions have appeared previously in the mains examination on various kinds of tribunals. For example, this question on Central Administration Tribunal. So, in this regard, we'll understand in today's discussions about the impact of NGT and what are the challenges faced by this particular body in its day-to-day functioning. Now, the National Green Tribunal, it is it was formed in the year 2010 after passage of a National Green Tribunal Act in the same year. So you can understand as the body is formed through a particular piece of legislation, hence this is a statutory body. Now, this body is composed of a chairperson who can be a current or a former judge of Supreme Court or a judge or a Chief Justice of High Court. Sorry, that person has to be a present or former justice of a High Court. Further, this body consists of members, both judicial as well as expert members. Both of them has to be between 10 to 20 members each. Now, the judicial members have to be a present or former judge of High Court in any part of the country. Now, this body, that is National Green Tribunal, it is responsible for implementing laws and also speedy disposal of cases related to environmental matters. So, in this regard, the NGT has the power to create its own procedure, and the orders of NGT has a power of a order of a civil court. Further, this body can adjudicate matters which are related to providing compensation to victims, restoration of properties which have been damaged due to environmental reason, and not just properties but also surrounding areas which are damaged due to environmental causes. Now, in the Act, that is NGT Act of the year 2010, the NGT is given power to adjudicate matters related to these seven legislations. So, if any question appears in prelims on what kind of statute are under the NGT Act, you can mark accordingly using this particular slide. Now that we have discussed a very basic nuance of nature, composition, and powers of this body, let us understand what have been the key achievements of the National Green Tribunal in past few years. Now, to disposal of cases in a quick manner, the NGT has taken many initiatives. For example, it hears cases over the internet, that is through video conferencing, so as to allow speedy disposal of cases. And it has also formed special benches which adjudicate matters that have been long pending and also which are complex environmental matters. Further, this body undertakes court management practices using digital tools, all of which are meant to enhance and efficiently dispose of environmental related cases. Also, this body considers cases not just when it is referred to it, but also on its own, which is called suo motu interventions. Now, historically, this body uh, studies data from other sectoral regulators such as Central Pollution Control Board and other state related bodies also, which has allowed us it to dispose of matters related to waste management, pollution of rivers, industrial areas, as well as urban areas. Also, undertaking these many measures has allowed the body to speedily or quickly dispose of cases related to environmental matters. For example, between 2018 and 2023, as many as more than 15,000 cases were referred to the body. However, as against 15,000 cases, you'll be surprised to know that this body disposed of more than 16,000 cases. So you can understand not just it has disposed of previous cases, but it has also reduced the pendency that was there in the National Green Tribunal. Further, this body has forwarded the cause of environmental justice in India. Because on one hand, you can understand India is undertaking rapid infrastructural and economic development. So you can understand because of these developmental initiatives, there is a significant chance of environmental damage. So this body is trying to perpetuate the idea that protection and conservation of environment is also very necessary. And according to its judgment, it has penalized companies who have violated the environment or have gone beyond their mandate. So, further, this has created a particular set of litigators as well as advocates who are sufficient and efficient in disposing of matters related to environmental cause. So these have been the achievements of National Green Tribunal in the recent past. However, despite significant achievement, there has also been many issues which are associated with its day-to-day functioning. For example, the NGT currently does not have the power to make anybody comply its orders. For example, you can understand despite hearing of cases in past few years, matters related to pollution in Delhi, pollution of important Indian rivers such as Ganga have been pending. And despite various efforts, not just by National Green Tribunal but also other administrative bodies, the matters related to environmental damage and pollution have persisted. And this is because the NGT does not have the power to ensure compliance of this order. At max, it can only impose monetary penalties on the bodies. Now, let us understand the cause of vacancies. Currently, as I have told you here, there has to be at least 10 judicial members in addition to at least 10 expert members in the National Green Tribunal. But currently, there are only 6 judicial members as well as 5 expert members currently who are there in office in the National Green Tribunal. So you can understand there are almost 50% of the vacancies in the National Green Tribunal, which again highlights the challenges faced by this body. Now, when there is vacancy, you can understand the body cannot speedily dispose of the cases which are brought to or referred to the National Green Tribunal. Further, due to shortage of expert members, the nature of orders which are passed by the National Green Tribunal are generic in nature, and the compensation which are provided by this body does not meet the fair requirement of compensation because expert members are not there to calculate how much compensation the body should provide. Further, the bodies previously have also disposed of cases based on procedural grounds. So all of these nature of its orders, which lack certain quality, they are generic in nature and also are disposed of on procedural grounds, have forced the people to refer to the body's decision to higher courts of the country that are high courts and supreme court. Further, the jurisdiction of National Green Tribunal can also be said to be restricted. And why am I saying this? Because from this particular screenshot, you can understand that although National Green Tribunal has power to adjudicate matters related to these seven important laws, but this also leaves out two other important environmental laws in the country, which is Wildlife Protection Act of the year 1972 and the Forest Rights Act of the year 2006. So, the power of NGT over these two important environmental legislation is currently absent, which highlights that the jurisdiction of NGT currently is restricted. Also, because of the nature of its decision, it has been highlighted in the media that National Green Tribunal provides an obstacle to India's economic development projects. Why? Because previously matters related to economic development and construction of infrastructure, the NGT has imposed monetary penalty on many projects, which many critics highlight increases the cost of doing business in the country, which you can also understand that discourages business from making further investment. So these are the issues which have been associated with the National Green Tribunal in the country. And in this regard, let us understand what should be the measures that should be undertaken to improve the functioning of the tribunal, that is National Green Tribunal. Now, first two measures are related to increasing the powers of NGT, which should make the NGT have the power to make bodies comply with its order and also impose follow up on its previous judgments. So, this highlights that we need to give more powers to the National Green Tribunal so as to enable it to make bodies comply with its order and also undertake follow up of its decisions, whether the decisions have been implemented or not. Further, as I've highlighted here, the jurisdiction of NGT is restricted. So we need to also enlarge the jurisdiction of NGT by bringing under its power the Wildlife Protection Act of the year 1972 as well as Forest Rights Act of the year 2006. And these two measures can be implemented by amending the NGT Act of the year 2010. Now, let us deal with the cases related to quick disposal of cases by the NGT. And for this, we need to fill or ensure the vacancies in the NGT are not left behind. So, for that, we need to ensure that at minimum level, there are 10 expert members as well as 10 judicial members in office at any time in the National Green Tribunal. Further, as I've already said, that the nature of its orders previously have forced people to move to higher courts in the country so as to reduce the burden on higher courts with matters related to environmental jurisdiction. We need to provide for an intra-tribunal appeal in the NGT itself. And for that, larger benches can be constituted which should hear matters which are referred from the small benches of the NGT, which will again reduce the burden on higher courts of our country. Further, matters related to environmental jurisdiction from time to time are also heard by the Supreme Court under the provision given of Article 136, which enables the Supreme Court to hear any matter which are related to special leave petition. So, in this regard, the Supreme Court needs to be conservative because the Supreme Court itself previously has highlighted that the matters related to environmental problems required to be disposed of by expert members. So, in that case, the Supreme Court should periodically refrain from matters related to environmental concerns. Further, as I've already highlighted, India is witnessing large scale infrastructural and economic development, which is spread across the length and breadth of the country, be it northeastern part of the country or southwestern part, which are the Western Ghats region. Now, as these regions are economically or ecologically sensitive region, that is why there is a slight bit of chance that many environmental cases will appear from these part of the country. Hence, there is a need to set up regional benches of NGT also, which will reduce the cost of environmental litigation for various stakeholders in the case. So these were the important provisions related to the National Green Tribunal and how the functioning of the body has been affected in the recent past. We also discussed measures which should be undertaken to improve the functioning of the National Green Tribunal. So with this, we move to the second set of article which again appeared in the Indian Express newspaper. Now, this news article highlights that India and China, as we all know, have been involved in border dispute from quite a some time, and there has been some progress which has been made on this issue in relation to the border dispute in the eastern Ladakh region. Now, this article also highlights that the friction point of this dispute, that are Galwan Valley, which witnessed intense skirmishes between the armies of these two countries in the year 2020, as well as other disputed region of Pangongso Lakes, Gogra Hot Springs have been witnessed some sort of resolution in recent past. However, legacy issues such as matters related to patrolling in Depsang Plains and Depchong region, however, they remain still unpending or unfulfilled. So this is the article which highlights the India-China border dispute in region. Now this news article, it is important from GS paper to syllabus because the syllabus highlights India's relation with its neighborhood countries and China is India's northern neighbor. Further, questions on India's relations with China have also appeared in the mains examination before. So this topic becomes important from mains examination. So, in this regard, let us understand what are the regions that have witnessed dispute matters related to border dispute between India and China. Before understanding the India-China border dispute, we should also understand and help understand the India's border dispute with Pakistan. Because only after understanding the nature of border dispute with Pakistan, it will help us put perspective on India's dispute with China. Now, as we all know, the matter related to control of princely state of Jammu and Kashmir was a matter of discussion when India got partitioned with China. Sorry, India got partitioned into India and Pakistan. So after the partition, Pakistani army, which was aided by the tribals of the region, they attacked and committed aggression on the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, afraid of this intense violence, the then ruler of princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, Maharaja Hari Singh, agreed to sign an instrument of accession with the government of India. Now, this instrument of accession provided India with the sovereign control over the entire princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. However, in the year 1948, both India and Pakistan agreed to cease the operations or military operations in the region, and hence came into fruition what is known as the line of control. Now, this line of control got its legal sanctity from 1972 agreement between India and Pakistan, which is known as Shimla Accord. So this Shimla Accord solidified the line of control in legal terms, and it not just helped India and Pakistan agree on this line of control on maps, but it also demarcated the line of control on ground, which separates currently India and Pakistan in the region of Jammu and Kashmir. So this was a summary of India's dispute with Pakistan, that currently India has a legally agreed line of control which it shares with Pakistan. Now, coming back to today's discussion, that is boundary dispute between India and China. Now, as against line of control which is demarcated on ground, line of actual control, which is a separation or boundary between India and Pakistan, it is just a concept. Whereas in practice, it is not delineated on maps and neither it is demarcated on ground. And this is where the entire dispute between India and China's border region lies. Because India and China currently cannot agree on demarcating and delineating a particular boundary between them. Now, this dispute occurs in three different regions. The first is the eastern sector, which currently highlights that India is involved in a border dispute in the region of Arunachal Pradesh. Now, back in the British era, the Britishers, in agreement with representatives from Tibet and China, agreed to a McMahon line which separated India from Tibet. However, after China exceeded the territory of Tibet, it highlighted that China does not agree with the McMahon line, which means China claims it control to this region of Arunachal Pradesh, which is the area of Tawang. However, India highlights that including Tawang and the entire region of Arunachal Pradesh comes under its own sovereign control. So this was the issue related to border dispute in the eastern sector. Now coming to the areas called as middle sector, which highlights India's boundaries in the region of Himachal Pradesh as well as Uttarakhand, which lies with China. Now, under this region, barring a small plain area, there is more or less agreement between these two countries on the border areas. However, the most flashpoint of this border dispute is in the area called Ladakh region or Leh and Ladakh region. Now, this area witnessed aggression by the Chinese army in the year 1962, and this has altered India's claim over the region. Because by virtue of instrument of accession and also the region called Johnson Line, which was finalized in the British era period, India claims that the entire Aksai region of the Leh and Ladakh is under the legal sovereign control of India. However, this interpretation by India is again disputed by China, and China rather highlights that it considers a McDonald line as its own boundary with India. So, this has been the area of divergence or the point of divergence between these two countries over the borders in the western sector, that is, in the Leh and Ladakh region. So, to deal with these border dispute, India and China has some sort of border dispute settlement mechanism. Now, this has been in practice since the year 1989. However, the most important development in this regard appeared in the year 2003, because in this year there came into fruition a special representative mechanism. Now, this mechanism highlights that the political leaders of the country will appoint the India's national security advisor as well as China's foreign minister as a special representative who will get directions from the political class of the country, and then they will finalize and delineate the boundaries between these two countries on map, which will be followed by the demarcation of the boundaries on ground. However, as you can understand, by current set of disputes between the country, this special representative mechanism has failed to bear any significant resolution of this dispute. Now, this was followed in the year 2012 by setting up of a working mechanism for consultation and coordination of border issues. However, in the year 2020, India witnessed aggression from China, especially in the Leh Ladakh region. So you can see these areas such as Depsang Plains, followed by Galwal Valley in south, as well as Gogra Hot Spring, Pangongso region has witnessed aggression by China. So this is what led to the current set of disagreements between these two countries. That on one hand, China wants to claim the territory of Leh and Ladakh, which India on other hand claims that it is its own sovereign territory. So these have been the flashpoints which we have witnessed happen during the COVID period. Now, to deal with this flashpoint, since the year 2021, the military of these two countries have been involved in high level military talks. And these talks have led to Disengagement in some areas, which the news article highlights, are Galwan Valley, north and south banks of Pangongso River, Pangongso Lake, as well as the Gogra hot spring area. However, despite such advances, still there are legacy issues such as areas related to Depsang Plain and Demchok region. They still remain under dispute. So, what are the reasons for this unresolved border dispute between these two countries? So, let us understand this. Now, the first reason why China wants to control the Leh and Ladakh region and why India wants to secure its hold on the region is because of strategic reasons. Now, the first strategic reason for India is that the area of Leh and Ladakh, a very important river called Indus and its tributaries flow through this area. So India wants to ensure the water security of its northern western region, especially states of Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, as well as Haryana, because they are irrigated by Indus and its tributaries. That is why India wants to control this very region. On the other hand, China sees this Aksai Chin area as a connectivity point between its northwestern territory of Xinjiang as well as its southern Tibet territory called Tibet here. So as you can see, this Aksai Chin region connects both northwestern part of China to the area called Tibet. So this is the strategic reason why China wants to control the Aksai Chin or Leh and Ladakh region. Further, in recent times, that is past 3 decades, there has been growing power difference between India and China because China, we know, have witnessed uh, enormous economic growth, which has put China's economy 5 times more than that of India. And this difference in the economic size of these two countries has also trickled down to the size and power differential between these two armies. So, this has been the reason why China has been more comfortable in committing aggression on India. But please make it a point that despite this power imbalance, India has able to uh, deal with China quite effectively. Further, because of this legacy issues that has persisted so long, there has been a sense of mutual distrust and suspicion between these two countries. That in any case, if one country is try to bring more military into the region or construct infrastructural development such as road and bridges, it is inferred by another country as an aggressive or expansionary move. So this mutual distrust and suspicion has not led these two countries to cool down the temperatures in the region. Further, India's recent geopolitical interest, particularly inclination towards West, has seen as a perceived threat by China. Because in recent times, India has acceded to the Western construct of Indo-Pacific region, and India also participates recently in the quadrilateral summits or meetings between Japan, Australia, United States, as well as India. Now, primarily, China sees these two initiatives as an anti-China in nature, which again increases the threat perception of China with respect to India's geopolitical interest. Further, India being a developing country and regionally a more of a prosperous country, India's regional ambition in recent years has also increased, be it its neighbor or as well as in the Indian Ocean region. And these India's regional ambition also has been met with significant concerns in China because China sees this as a one-stop measure which is aimed to look or which is aimed to reduce China's impact in the region. So, because of all these reasons, that is strategic control over Aksai Chin, the power imbalance between these two countries, perceived threat from India's inclination towards Western countries, as well as India's increasingly regional ambitions, has increased the sense of distrust and suspicion among India and China. And this has been the reason why India and China has been unable to solve the dispute between these two countries. So, in this regard, let us understand how this dispute should be effectively resolved. The first understanding in this regard is to have a better understanding on India's regional initiatives. Because India has to highlight that its regional initiatives, such as Indo Pacific or quadrilateral grouping, they are aimed as a developmental necessity and not that they are not anti Chinese in nature. So, this will help China and India to cool down or reduce the level of threat perception which currently exists. And this reduction in threat perception will help these two armies to undertake mutual demilitarization of the disputed areas and also help these two countries build high levels of trust between them. Further, we also need to ensure that the relationship between India and China does not become a hostage to its border dispute. Rather, India should look to balance its relationship with China, especially in the region or in the areas of trade and economic partnership. Because when India and China becomes enmeshed, especially in the areas of trade and economy, it will lay a solid foundation which will help again trickle down to solving of border disputes between the country. Further, there are also many reasons for China to acknowledge India's aspirational, especially in multilateral bodies. Because in multilateral bodies such as United Nations, World Trade Organization, or United Nations Forum for Climate Change, these global bodies, in these global bodies, India and China have a same motive. That is, India and China want to undertake reforms in United Nations as well as World Trade Organization, and they also are against the Western nations when it comes to discussions on climate change. So, as China will be able to acknowledge India's aspiration and understand that the interests of these two countries converge in the multilateral organizations, hence, after that, the relationship between India and China can improve. Further, both countries need to accommodate their respective interests of the other neighbor as well. Because China, you can understand, is involved in a close partnership with Pakistan, which makes India uncomfortable. Whereas on the other hand, India is involved in a close partnership with US, which makes China uncomfortable. So there is a need to accommodate interest of the other nation as well, which will help India and China both to manage its partnership effectively and also ensure that the partnership with any third country does not affect the relationship equation between these two countries. So these are the discussions which we did on India-China border dispute and how it should be solved effectively for regional harmony in general. Now with this, we move to next article of the day, which you can see appeared in the explain section of Indian Express newspaper. Now this news article highlights Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay's philosophy of integral humanism, which is now a basic philosophy of the ruling party in the central government, that is Bharatiya Janata Party. Now various questions on different kind of political and social philosophies are important from prelims examination, which you can see question appeared on Marxism and Gandhism in the year 2030. Further, this development is important from post independence Indian history as well. Hence, we are going to discuss what is this concept of integral humanism in our today's discussion. Now, this integral humanism, you can understand, was born from Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay's desire to have a uniquely Indian idea on a political and social philosophy. And this philosophy highlights that Indian thought, it witnesses life as a unified whole. As this is as against the Western construct, which provides and puts focus on individualism. Hence, the Indian thought process, it tries to unify physical, mental, spiritual dimensions into one single thought. Now, coming to integral humanism, this philosophy again, uh, in relation with other Indian political thoughts as well. It focuses on holistic development of not just individual but also that of Indian society. And this development consists not just of material but also spiritual development. Hence, this concept it integrates Indian concepts such as duty, that is dharma, wealth, which is called earth, desire, which is called as kama, as well as spiritual liberation, which is called as moksha. Now, the key features of this particular theory is that it focuses on bringing an indigenous socio-economic model which puts human being at the center of the development. However, despite human being at the center of the development, this theory it aims to balance the needs of individual with that of society so as to provide a dignified life to every human being, not just particular set of human beings. Now, this philosophy, as you can understand, supports the concept of sustainable economic development, which we can understand is quite relevant in current context, so as to preserve our natural resource base. And also, it enhances the concept of political, economic, and social freedom, which we can understand is highlighted also in the important legal documents such as Indian Constitution. So, to summarize, the three key principles of this integral humanism concept is giving primacy to whole, not just to individual, bringing supremacy to dharma, that is concept of duty, as well as providing autonomy to the society. So, based on this information, let us now solve the practice question. Consider the following, that is primacy to individual, supremacy of dharma, as well as autonomy to the society, and which of the above are considered as the central principles of the concept of integral humanism. So, from our today's discussion, we can highlight that second and third are correct, whereas primacy to the individual is incorrect because integral humanism provides primacy to whole and not individual. So, as second and third are correct, hence option C is the right answer to this practice question. Moving on to the next article, which you can see again appeared in the Indian Express newspaper, and this article highlights that India has formally joined a US led mineral security finance network. Now you can understand this is a crucial development as far as India is concerned because currently India has a limited deposits of critical minerals such as lithium, nickel, cobalt, which is quite essential in current period as they are used in various technologies such as batteries of EVs, mobile phones, laptops, etc. And currently, India is relying on China for importing these critical minerals. So, as to reduce India's reliance on China, India has acceded to mineral strategic partnership and a mineral security finance network, which is a pivotal of its growth strategy, as it aims to make India a key player in the electrical vehicle as well as electronic manufacturing areas. Now, various groupings which has bearing on India's, it is important from prelims perspective, which you can see a 2022 question here. Further, even looking at the syllabus, current events of national and international importance are important. Hence, we are going to discuss this mineral security finance network. Now, coming back to critical minerals, these are metallic and non-metallic elements which have two characteristics. First is that they are essential for functioning of our modern day technologies, be it economic or national security related technologies, and they are also at a risk of disruption to their supply chains. Because currently, China, it is the largest producer of 16 critical minerals and it is responsible for production of 70% of global cobalt as well as 60% of rare earth element production. Second, understand currently China has a good control over the supplies of critical minerals. And this Chinese control has made other countries uncomfortable. So as to reduce their discomfort, countries such as Western nations, be it UK, India, as well as India, they have acceded and agreed to form a mineral security partnership, which was led by USA in 2022. And India became a member of this Mineral Security Partnership in the year 2030. Now, this Mineral Security Finance Network, it is an extension of Mineral Security Partnership, which involves 14 countries and the European Union. Now, this body aims to provide finances, especially for development of supply chain for critical minerals, be it cobalt, nickel, rare earth elements, lithium, etc. And this partnership aims to strengthen the cooperation among its member countries, address rising global demand for critical minerals, encourage collaboration between the member countries' public and private sector companies, and also create synergies for developmental financial institutions as well as export credit agencies to provide credit for projects which are located in other countries also. So, at a very basic level, this organization aims to ensure supply chain of critical minerals for countries other than China. Understood. So, with this, let us solve the practice question. With reference to Mineral Security Finance Network, consider the following statement. It is an initiative of United Nations Environment Program. Again, incorrect because this is an initiative of United States of America. The second statement, India has been a member of this network since its inception. Again, incorrect because this, sorry, this grouping is in fruition since 2022. However, India acceded to it in the year 2024. The third statement, it aims to address rising global demand for critical minerals. It is correct. Hence, option A is the right answer as only third statement was correct. With this, we move to the last article of the day, which appeared in the Business Line newspaper, and it highlighted that the Asia Infrastructure and Investment Bank, which is abbreviated as AIIB, according to Finance Minister Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, should help low income nations to get financial resources. Now, this body has been previously asked in the prelims of the year 2019, and also the syllabus highlights multilateral bodies, be it Asian Development Bank, I- International Monetary Fund, World Bank, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. All of these are important from prelims perspective. I have put a table here which differentiates between Japan-led Asian Infrastructure Bank with Chinese-led Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank. So you can refer to this table after the session end, and let us quickly understand what is this Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank, which is headquartered in Beijing, China. Now, this bank was founded in the year 2016. It is a multilateral development bank which provides fund to various countries to undertake infrastructure development. Now, the aim of this body is to collectively improve both socio and economic outcomes in the region of Asia. However, the membership of this body not just extends to Asian countries but also to other non-regional countries such as countries located in southern American continent. Now currently there are as many as 110 members, and it is important to note that India is one of the founding members of this body. Now the membership of this bank, it is open to all the members of World Bank and also to the members of Asian Development Bank, which is a Japan and US led developmental bank. So currently among this 110 members, these are divided into regional as well as non-regional members. Now the powers of this bank, it is vested in Board of Governors, which is the highest decision making body of the AIIB. Now, in terms of vote share, China has the largest voting share in the AIB, which is more than 25%, and this is followed by India and which is followed by Russia. So, in terms of voting share, China has the largest, followed by India, which and followed by Russia at the third place. Now, with this, let us solve the practice question with reference to, sorry, AIIB. Consider the following statements. The membership of AIIB, it is open to members of Asian Development Bank, which is correct as I have highlighted here. It is open to members of World Bank, as well as Asian Development Bank. Second statement, Japan holds the largest voting share in AIB, which is incorrect because Japan holds the largest voting share in ADB, whereas in AIB, China holds the largest voting percentage. The third statement, India is a founding member of AIB. It is correct. Hence, as first and third statement are correct, second is incorrect. Hence, option B is the right answer to this practice question. Now, with this, we conclude our today's session of Daily News Simplified. We'll see you again tomorrow at 6 p.m. Until then, I bid you a very good night.